TUFF SHIFT.
Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of TUFF SHIFT, the podcast where we unpack all that goes into surviving the job and living the dream. I am your host, Sean Patrick Murtagh, and Happy New Year. Yeah, we can still say it. It's, that bullshit really annoys me. Like, it's already happened. It's been 2 days. It's been a week. If I haven't seen you, and it is March 14th, guess what? You're getting a Happy New Year. If I've not seen you in the new year, and I must say, like, I think March 14th, I don't know. Oh, that's Pi Day. Wait, is that Pi Day? Boom, 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 boom. Yep, that wasn't helpful. I knew the answer. I don't know why I didn't trust myself. But yeah, like, say Happy New Year to people. It's still a new year. Like, it's relatively new. And that we're only 2 weeks out, and it's our first episode of the new year. So Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I am so happy to be back another year with all of you, starting it off, because trust me, the tough shifts are tough shifting. And I unintentionally took a week off last week. Well, not completely unintentionally. I did intend on doing this, like this kind of like year-end wrap-up and New Year hopes and this and that, kind of close up our holiday little season edition of Tough Shift. I almost said holiday test drive. Nope, that's the show in San Francisco, which was stunning. If you missed it, I am actually pretty proud of myself, and I'm gonna say that was a really good show, and more people should have been there. But that's okay. There's always next year. There was a power outage. The show almost got canceled. There was torrential downpours. Like, I'm just so happy that I didn't fall over. Anyway, yeah, I ended up taking last week off because I got back into town down here in LA, went straight to work, and then was going out of town with my partner and his family to go up to Ventura, where he has some family members, and one of his cousins just had a baby, so we went to go have some family time. So it was like holiday break, come back, work 3 shifts in a row, and then go straight to Ventura. And I didn't really have time, or I didn't make the time to have an episode ready for you. And when it came, I was like, I'll just do it on this day, and I'll just do it, and I just stopped myself. I said, you've not missed a week. You've not missed a week of episodes. I think you can take a break. I think you've done enough between this show and your holiday show and all the multiple jobs that you're working and this thankless job that you're currently working, that you're working hard to get out of. Like, take a break. And you know what? I almost took another break this week, but I thought, this is not as virtuous or selfless. Like, this is also for me doing this show. I am so happy to have this outlet to share with you, to kind of just like talk through what I'm going through at work, what I'm going through as a performer, to introduce you to other performers and do that collaboration and that back and forth. I think it is as well, I hope it's as fulfilling for you as it is for me, but it is definitely fulfilling for me. And just knowing whatever small reach I have, whatever small engagement I have, thank you so much, because it does help keep me honest. It does help keep me talking and creating and making sense of this survival job that I've been in now for 20 years. And that's crazy. I think the anniversary is actually now. Like, I think now, or maybe a week ago, I was fired from Beach Blanket Babylon 20 years ago. And dream shattered, heartbroken. And the first thing I did, like within 48 hours, was I got a job as a waiter and booked another show. So I'm not one to let grass grow under my feet. So yeah, here we are. And I don't really have time to make this episode because I've just been pushing back. And, I do the bookkeeping. I also do hold on, I'm going to see if this is even recording. Sorry about that. We were recording, but for some reason, the little volume button here on Riverside, I'm talking about you, Riverside, because this is what's happening, is not showing any voice, but I went and stopped and looked, and there was audio recorded. So there we go. We should be doing fine. And if not, I'll just cry, right? That just seems to be that just seems to be the thing nowadays. But yeah, like, not to concern you all, I'm a little burnt out right now from having, going through the process of selling a show, putting up a show, getting this content out to you, being at this job that I hate, and, taking courses and applying to get out of for jobs to get me out of there. And so many wonderful things are happening. Leads for potential clients in bookkeeping, that to get me out of this current restaurant. I'm also looking at every catering opportunity I can to supplement and get me through and make sure that I can successfully leave this restaurant, and not have to worry or stress. Because I'm one of those people, I do believe in, if you build it, they will come. And just if I were to quit, and what doors would magically open. But then I'm also one of those people, it's like, don't quit a job without something lined up, because then that just creates another stress. So it's one of those, like, it's that double-edged sword where I'd never know which well to like dip into. And so I'm just making sure that I got all my bases covered. Right now is a really good time for me as a bookkeeper. It is January, got to kind of finish up last year's statements and downloads, and make sure to get people's 1099s and tax forms out to them. So it's wonderful. It's just time consuming. And oddly enough, the restaurant that I work at wasn't busy when I came back originally. And now it's like, it almost feels like summer. Like last night, we got murdered. And it was like wonderful to know that I'm making money, because those first 3 shifts I work, including New Year's Eve, I made almost no money. It was kind of embarrassing. New Year's Eve, brace yourselves. New Year's Eve, each bartender walked with under $200. That's not how it works. And Jeremy was like, oh, how was work? And I was like, it was really easy and low key. And he was like, oh, that's wonderful. At least you weren't stressed. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I know I always say that that's the goal, but also so is making money. And New Year's just didn't happen. And well, let's start at the very beginning. Like I said, this is going to be, I hope, a quick episode, because I do have to get to work. If you're following me on Instagram, I did just post a picture, a series of pictures of my response to me reaching out to my manager asking if my in time would be pushed back, because it usually is. It usually is like, oh, stay later. Oh, don't come in till later. Da 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 da. And it's like, great. And then the morning you're relying on it is when they're like, no, we need you here on time. I'm like, just son of a bitch. I've been procrastinating and doing this episode. And okay, fine. I'll be there on time. Maybe 5-10 minutes late. But so yeah, so I was just like, I gotta get this out. So I say this will not take that long, but as we know here and in other instances, when I say it probably won't take that long, it takes a lot longer than all of us are expecting. Not all of us. Well, in this case, yes. Oh, don't go there, Sean. Don't go there. You have to make yourself laugh. Anyways, so let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. So when I got back from San Francisco, and I just had this influx of shifts, and I was really annoyed because I'm not sure if I've explained it before. This restaurant has a weird schedule. So it's Wednesday to Wednesday. They have their own work weeks, and I really hate when businesses do that. It's so dumb. I can see having your own fiscal year. I understand that as a bookkeeper, that's wonderful. But having these weird weeks towards like Wednesday to Wednesday, and then the way that they stack the shifts. So I'm like, I don't want to work 5 shifts in a week. And my boss is like, great. But then within their weeks, I'm not working 5 shifts in a week. But in a normal week that we all subscribe to, it's 5 shifts almost back to back, because sometimes they pad on one side and then the other. And it's just so lopsided, and it throws you. And I'm like, I'm coming back in, and it's like, but I did drop 1 shift so I could have a little more time in Oxnard. And that was wonderful, which we'll talk about Oxnard in a bit. But I had all these shifts that I'm walking into, and I'm like, what am I walking into? I've had 2 beautiful weeks off from this restaurant, and I just know I'm going to get just baptized by fire. And I did. I walked in to my first shift. It was December 30th, my first shift back from the holidays. And I walked in, and it was a goddamn war zone. The lunch bartender, because they did that lunch pop-up, which we don't need to unpack that because I just need to stay focused because we need to get through this episode. The lunch bartender, who is a bartender that I've spoken about before, who is inadequate and not designed for this lifestyle, not really designed to be a bartender. And that's okay. That happens. But it's annoying. It sure is annoying. And I walked in and it was a shit show. Probably the worst I've ever seen it. Just bottles emptywhere, full bottles, empty bottles, dirty glassware, garnishes not set up, just a mess all over the floor, trash cans and recycling bins overflowing, a screen full of tickets. And I'm like, how is this possible? And I'm coming into work to kind of set up for the evening success. And I'm just like thrown in. And I can't even, like, he starts with his excuses. And I'm like, dude, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Just let me fix this. And I just start going in to triage, and I'm going around and I'm filling people's water. I'm clearing plates. I'm getting rid of recycling. I'm clearing the board from tickets and just churning out drinks and just trying to play catch up and trying to play catch up and just like, nobody look at me. Like, I just had 10, 11, 12 beautiful days off in a row, and I'm back to this bullshit. And then things die down, and I'm connecting with him because it's one of those things where he's just someone you can't stay mad at, because it's like he's not qualified for this job, but he's not necessarily a bad person, though he sometimes forgets his place and gets like a little snarky, or he tries to be like, oh yeah, we're the same level of bartender, and you want to just be like, snap out of it, you suck. But he's, so nice. Like the last time I saw him before I left, and I was like, I walked in and it was just also a mess, not as bad as this. And he's like, hey, Sean, got a little present for you. And I was like, not now, Brian. And just like steamed through and went in, cleaned up his mess. And then later on, he's like, oh, just, if you have time now, I just wanted to give you the present. I was like, oh, it's an actual present. I thought you were going to give me more work. And he knew that I liked this one whiskey. I think we spoke about this before. And he brought me little samples of these limited edition bottles that this distillery puts out. And he brought me 2 little samples for me to taste. And he gave me the full background. And I was like, you're such a dick, Sean. You're such a dick. Not that he didn't make it to where like my reaction would be like, you're going to annoy me. But you're still a dick. Like, I'm still a dick for doing that. And so this time, even though it was way worse when I was walking in, I was like, all right, hit me with your excuses. And he was like, yeah, I walked in, and this was a Tuesday, and I used to open on Tuesdays before they have lunches. And he's like, I walked in and everything was a mess, and I just couldn't, I had to clean up to set up. And there was like 12 empty bottles of blends that needed to be filled. There was no garnishes. There was this and that. And I was like, oh, fuck, the Monday crew, which they may or may not drink on the job. May or may not. I'm not there on Mondays. I may or may have not seen them drinking on other shifts when I worked with them. And I definitely judge them for that action that I may or may not have seen. And I've worked those Tuesdays for months. And so I know walking into Tuesdays is a minefield. Like, what didn't they do on a Monday night, which is historically known for being the busiest night in any given restaurant? Like, what did these 2 bartenders, how busy were they that they couldn't do anything? And so when he started in on all the stuff they'd left for him, I couldn't help but feel compassion. Like, this poor guy who just, again, I'm not going to make an excuse for him, but it's like, this couldn't have happened to the worst person, a worse person. Like, he has a hard time setting up on a regular day, but when they screw him over, and it's like, my thing is like, I can talk shit about him, but like, I also know that like, he is literally doing the best he can. And I'm not going to, like, my thing is, with that knowledge, I'm not going to fuck him over, because that will just, again, fuck me over and the next bartender over. And we can't do that. And I was just like, you. And so my manager comes over and is like, yeah, sorry about this and that. And I was like, well, you guys need to get things under control. Like, you see how they left him. You see how they did him. And I get that he's working lunch because he's not capable to do the other things, and you guys won't fire him, and you're keeping him on and dragging him along, and he's not making money. And that's a separate conversation, which it's like, I feel like the kinder thing to do would be to let him go. But if you're gonna keep him, then you need to do your job to set him up for success, which then sets us up for success, because you're just putting it all on us to carry his weight on top of that. And then you have these two bartenders that I know they're drinking on the job. I know they're not pulling their weight. And how are you going to do this? And this is my welcome back. And I'm like, I can't do this, but it's not Brian's fault. It's not 100% Brian's fault that this is happening. And I was like, what a welcome back. And I was like, actually, you know what a welcome back. I'm glad it was like this, because this is just more incentive for me to move forward, for me to do exactly what I need to do to get out of here. And it's just like, this is not the place. This is not the place. And then the next day, I come in, and literally part of my goal for this shift was not just catching up for where they fucked over Brian, but also catching up because, like, I'm working the next day for New Year's. And then I realized, like, we don't have anything. We don't, and they have, like, the management team sends back all these emails and all these PDFs with all these graphics and designs about how things are going to do. And they talk about everything, almost academically and administratively, how things are going to go. But then they don't get the servers. They don't get the team set up for what they need. They don't prep what they need in advance. They just send fancy PDFs and back and forth messages all the time, and nothing actually practical. Like, let's do a run. Let's go through a list and see what we need for this evening, this prefix menu, this thing that we're offering, the same thing they didn't do when they started happy hour, the same thing they didn't do when they started a lunch. Like, how is this going to work? No, we're just going to throw people in it and expect them to make it work for us, and knowing that they're not getting the money they deserve for working that hard. And I was like, oh, we don't have anything ready for New Year's. Cool. We have no blends, and New Year's is usually a busy night. And you already know, I spoiled it. Wasn't busy here. Was not busy here, but we'll get to that. So it's just like, I'm running to, like, make sure that we have our wines are stocked, our batches are stocked. My coworker who usually does the batches, I'm just like, all right, we got to do this. And we're just like moving mountains to get ready for New Year's. Then we get into New Year's, and obviously they're going to have 3 bartenders on because we're in a beach town. We're near a pier where there's lots of activity. But this time, again, another spoiler, we were just a little too far. Across the street from the pier where all the activity is just a little too far on New Year's. So we had 3 bartenders. By the grace of God, the bar, we got ourselves set up for success with no help from anybody else. And then New Year's comes. It's this prefix menu. There's no more reservations, but walk-ins can come to the bar. They can also order a la carte from the prefix, but not a la carte from our regular menu, which disappointed some people who walked in. I'm like, listen, lady, like, this is New Year's. This is any holiday. Most places are having a prefix because of the volume, and it's for your success. But, like, I get it. And also, like, you are walking in to sit at the bar. You didn't make a reservation. You didn't call to check in. Like, that's on you. And it's not personal, and it's not that deep. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. So it's just, we learn about the prefix menu like 5 minutes before the shift starts. And I'm sitting there like, oh man, these waiters, because with the prefix, the waiters, like, have all these reservations, and we're cranking out the drinks for them. These waiters have the gratuity built into the prefix. So they're automatically getting 20%, and they're able to cocktail because half of the dining room is going to become a dance floor at the end of the night, and then they can cocktail. And this is a night that would be, if in a better establishment, would have made this a completely pooled night. I understand the benefits in pooled is when everyone puts all the tips together, and then it's split evenly by hours and by job title. So servers and bartenders would be on the same thing. And if you're like a senior server or senior bartender, you get like a little more. If you're doing like, it's a lot more equitable. I'm very pro pool. And a lot of people aren't, because they're like, well, why would I share my tips with somebody who's not selling as much? And it's like, well, because they're running your drinks. They're doing this. And a lot of people assume that a pooled house like incentivizes lazy people. And I'm like, well, I'm one of the best workers here, and I'm pro pool. And I always find that people who aren't pro pool are actually the lazy ones who are just trying to get more than they deserve, because they're not realizing that an entire restaurant makes the wheel spin, and not just them. So the fact that they take on 10 tables and can't run their own drinks or run their own food or clear their own tables, like, yeah, that's why we share. That's what makes it equitable. And it would have been great, especially knowing how much work we as bartenders have to do to set this place up. I mean, the making the blends, the 2 garnishes per drink, the things being spread out everywhere, the amount of wines. We have like almost 20 wines by the glass. More, almost 30 wines by the glass between red and white. That's crazy. And we have to stay on top of that. Like the bartenders, we got screwed, and people weren't really coming into the bar. And so, and the servers made like $800 in tips that night. And we get 8% we get 1% tip out from the servers for all the work, and the majority of their income is coming from us at the bar. So they have the prefix, they get the 20% on the prefix, and then the drinks are a la carte. So then they get more, then they get tipped on that. And it's just like, baby, like y'all didn't think about this. So it goes on. We make under $200. Flash forward to Sunday night. Now, Sunday night is incredibly slow. It's right after New Year's. It was the 3rd, the 4th, January 4th. So people are still gung-ho on going dry and this and that. It was an incredibly slow night. So my one coworker, who I fucking adore, he's part of the A team. He's in charge of doing blends and batches as well. He's one of the other people that does a lot of the prep work. And he was trying to talk to our manager because we didn't have what we needed. We were out of literally everything. And the manager's like, well, why don't we have this? And he's like, you don't order enough. And so now I'm here needing these blends. And whenever I'm scheduled to do the blends, nothing is ordered. And then when I'm here as a bartender, there's no blends, and then we still don't have it. And then you're telling me, well, we don't. And they were going back and forth and back and forth. And he's like, our manager, who I've learned to love. I call him Boy Wonder, because just kind of like Robin, he's like useless.
Hey there, just checking in. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are, why not leave us a 5-star review and a comment or two wherever you're listening to this from? And don't forget to follow us on social media at TUFF SHIFT Podcast. That's TUFF SHIFT Podcast. Everywhere. Literally everywhere. And just a reminder, gratuity's not included, but tips are always welcome. And you can find our virtual tip jar at tuffshiftpodcast.com. That's TUFF shiftpodcast.com. All right, back to the show.
Like, what do you actually do? Except, no, I'm not going to make that joke. We'll unpack more about him. Maybe when I do a Patreon and Behind the Wall, I can tell you more about what I think about him. But I've learned to love him. His greenness in this area, his innocence, his lack of self-awareness, his whatever. But again, like Brian, he's doing the best he can. So I've learned to kind of love him and work with him, because it's not, why would I just stay angry? Why would I just stay angry at someone who doesn't know how bad they are? I'll work with him. And kind of just train him by osmosis. Does that make sense? Anyways, and I also ride him. I also make fun of him in a way that is kind of therapeutic. And I think that kind of shifted it, because I'm like, you're so dumb. So I'm going to just make fun of you in a way that you think is a joke. And then it kind of became a joke, but it's also therapeutic for me. Like I make him jump. I tell him what to do, where to go, in a very friendly, funny way. But he also does exactly what he's supposed to do, because I'm a big, gay, older, queer man that he's my boss, but I'm older and more experienced, and I'm gay and funny. So he takes it as a joke, but then things get done. And it's like, God, it's so easy to control straight men. It is so easy. Women and gay men know this very well, to make them think it's their idea. So I'm usually like really intense, but in a funny way with him. And this night, hearing him go back and forth with Danny about, well, we can't order because we don't want to sit on product. And Danny's like, well, it's better to sit on product it's alcohol, it's shelf stable, than to like not have it. And then I have to come in on another day that I don't have, and on a day that I'm not making as much. Because he doesn't make much when he does prep. And so it's like, so then I have to shoot myself in the foot in my pocketbook to do this for you when you could just order it and I could be on schedule. And they're going, it's this back and forth and like, well, you know, what management wants and like what his bosses want and da 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 da. And I just turned around. And I think he thought I was being sassy at first, but I just, with this week of walking into a shit show and just then not making money and not making money and not making money, I was like, you know what? And this is why you ain't gonna have nobody here come March. This is why you're gonna be training all new bartenders come here, and your staff is gonna leave because you ask us what we need, we tell you what you need, you don't get it, and then you ask us why things are done, and you just can't get that through your head. You just can't get that through your head. And when we all leave, when nobody of the original bar team is here, and you're gonna be wondering why, just remember this day. And then I caught myself, and he was just like, what happened? And Danny's like, Danny came in and saved the day. He's like, or you could just listen to what I say because Sean, like he covered it. And also, Boy Wonder knew I was right. And because we've built this rapport, I wasn't necessarily coming for him. And there's actually nothing he can do. And I think that also has contributed to me kind of softening towards him, is because there are places he can grow as a manager and a person and a worker in general. But in any industry, there are higher ups that just won't let him get what he needs to succeed for us to get what we need to succeed. And it was just like, fuck this shit. So it's building and we're getting there. I promise you this has a point. We're getting there. So it's like, we're all cool. We're all cool. And then I have a couple days off, not from other work. Like I still have my bookkeeping stuff to do. I just started with some new clients with my accountant back in New York. So all cool stuff, but not enough time to really just have time to myself to decompress. So I'm going. I can't remember what Tuesday night was like. I think it was decent. I was with my work husband. He's fine. We have a good time, even when it sucks. Like my work husband, Danny, my girl Brandy, we're the A team. If your name was not mentioned, I'm so sorry. Please try again next year. But that's my team. That's my main team. And so Tuesday was fine. I have Wednesday off from the restaurant, not from life or my other outside side hustles. And then I come in on Thursday. And Thursday, I needed to not open. And I didn't request it, but I got it. And I got a lot of work done in my outside life and was grateful that I don't usually close on a Thursday, but for some reason they put me on closing until I walked in. And my coworker, God knows where she was. God knows where she was physically in the restaurant, but I don't know what planet. I don't know what planet she was on. And it was like watching somebody, I don't want to throw around accusations, but I do have a very limited capacity I have empathy, but I also have a strong boundary around people who mess with substances. And especially when them messing with substances messes with me and affects my life and my income. So I walk in to this shift and she's like walking through honey, just like zoning out in front of the computer. Like I walk in and I see nothing is set up, which is not necessarily uncommon for her. Like she really is not that great, though she thinks she's amazing at her job and she's been doing it longer than me and in New York, which I'm like, you know better. If you've done this in New York, you know better. But like she does like the bare minimum, and she's part of that Monday crew where they always just do the bare minimum. And it's like I know they work out of one well, so then they don't need to restock the other well. So then the Tuesday person comes in, so it's all coming full circle. But this was like another thing. I was like, not even the service well where I will be working at is set up. Like there's 2 sprigs of mint. 2 sprigs of mint. There's the garnishes are nowhere out. As I'm going, I'm looking and I'm like, where are all these bottles? And where is everything I need? And I'm looking, I'm like, why don't I have this bottle? And then I started slowly realizing as I was looking for bottles is that because we have all these blends and each well has to mirror because we have to be able to make the same drinks. So there was like 2 of the same blends in each well. And everything was mixed up and out of order. And this one had 2 of our mezcal blends. This one had 2 of our blueberry vodka blends. And everything was in a different place. And I was like, oh, I've been going from muscle memory and making drinks with the wrong bottles for like a good 45 minutes. And I'm looking and I get this one drink and I'm like, I can't find the ingredient. And I'm looking, and that's when I started looking in her section and realizing like, oh my God, like this is all backwards. And I'm like, this bottle goes in your well, this bottle, I'm going, and I'm giving her stuff she needs, and it's just sitting there. And she's still just like out to lunch, zoning out in front of guests, giving people tastes of wine, putting the wine down, walking away, and then never filling their glass. And I'm literally buried in tickets and like, I'm so sorry, I got you. And catching up for her. And I get this one ingredient, which is like this cordial we make. And I'm like, where's the second bottle? Because I'm trying to set up your well, passive aggressively. I'm trying to set up your well so that way you have everything you need so you don't need to come to my well because I'm busy. And I don't know where this bottle is. And I look over and there's a purple puddle all over the floor. All over the floor. Like, what? What is this? And I'm like, oh, that's the second bottle. Because this is not the first time that she's dropped bottles and we're just like, and doesn't tell anyone, and we're just out of a blend and we're like, where did this blend go? And it's like, and we're missing bottles and we have to keep ordering bottles, and then we keep running through blends because they're being dropped. I'm just like, I can't deal with this. I can't. So we'll deal with that later. We're getting to the shift. She is dragging. And meanwhile, this restaurant is not a pooled house, obviously. It's not a pulled house, but the bar is always pulled. In any restaurant, if it's not a pulled house, the bar is always pulled because we're a team. So I'm like, she's fucking sucking at life right now, and I have to share tips with her. I'm doing all this work and I have to share tips with her. And it's just like, check yourself, check yourself. And my manager, when I came in, because I came in and I texted because I was doing my bookkeeping work, and I was like, hey, I don't want to get on the road and then you say come in later. So I will come in because I want to be in that pool. I want to get shit done. But if you're going to have me come in later, just let me know now so I can just push past this and get this work done. If not, I'll see you. I do want to come in at my regular scheduled time, but I don't want to be caught by surprise. And he was like, oh, come an hour later. Don't you worry. Only to find out that when he got there, he had to pull her aside because he's like, what's going on with you? And she's like, oh no, I'm fine. He's like, are you under the influence? And she's like, no, I'm fine. And like talked her through it. And then he, after talking with her, said she was fine enough to work. And when I checked in, didn't tell me to come in early, knowing that the bar wasn't set up. He gave me an extra hour off. And I'm like, what? What? And I'm like, all these things, like, you knew the whole time. And so she's like, we got to get through it. There's nothing we can do but get through it. And again, everything's a mess. We make it work. We get like, it's one of those things where it's like, fuck, we're getting murdered, but at least I'm making money. I hate this place, but I'm making money. So at the end of the day, it's fine, except for the fact that she's still there. And it's like, I told my manager, Boy Wonder, I was like, you need to get her out of here and you're going to help me close this bar because I have to close this bar. And if she's not going to be of help, then I need her out of here and you're going to come help me because I'm not sharing my tips. He's like, fine. So as he's like trying to get her out, and she's like, yeah, everyone seems really upset with me today. And I know I'm not on my A game, but like, I'm not that bad. And I looked at her, I was like, you're awful. I love you. And I do, I care for her, but I'm like, but you're awful. You've made this an awful shift. And she's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I'm like, what fucking planet are you on? And then she's like talking and like, I'm like, just get out of here. Just get out of here. And she's like looking around at the dirty floor, purple puddle and everything. And she's like, I thought they were going to start mopping the floors every night. And I said, yeah, they have been. Like, that's no longer our responsibility. You're right. Yeah, they have been. She goes, well, this floor is so dirty. And I said, yeah, it is dirty. And I said, but you opened, right? You opened today? She goes, yeah, but what does that have to do with it? And I said, well, did the floor look like this when you came in? The floor looked like this when you came in? There was a giant purple puddle outside of the lowboy fridge where we store our blends. That purple puddle was there when you walked in and you left it there and put a mat on top of it. That's kind of weird because there's also purple stuff on top of the mat. So was that all there? And she just looked at me like, I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't know. And I'm like, dude, I have compassion. I have compassion for whatever you're going through, which is actually interesting because like on the way there, I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast and it was talking about you can have as much, it was about boundaries. It's like, you can have as much compassion and empathy for people and still not give a shit. You can still tell people no. You can still boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh, I need this, not knowing what I was walking into. And again, which we'll unpack in a memoir once I sell it to Random House or whoever, when I share my memoir of my experience of dealing with people with addiction. And it was just, everything was triggered. And so I have compassion. And again, this is something, we've been talking about in recent episodes about substance abuse in this industry. And like, let this be a cautionary tale. Like, yeah, you can have stuff going on. Yeah, you could be an addict. Yeah, you could be medicating to get through. I don't blame addicts. I don't blame addicts for doing what they need to do to get through the day, even if it's the wrong choice. But I hold you responsible for making that choice, especially when it's costing me money. And I'm just like, I'm ready to blow. And my coworker's like, Sean's not going to come back. And like, my coworkers love me and I love my coworkers. And he's like, he's not going to come back. And I'm like, I don't got another job, so I will come back. And finally, like, I'm trying to get her out. And she's like, I mean, I know I haven't been any help, but I want to stay. And I said, I would really rather you leave. I'd rather you leave because you're stealing money from me right now. Because I'm doing all the work and I already have to share my tips with you. And now you're not leaving and you're still in the pool. So please leave. And she just looks at me and she goes, yeah, I guess you're right. And makes her way out. And I'm like, dear God. And good boy wonder, he stepped up, he came in, he did it. You know how hard I am on managers, but I'm also fair. He showed up, he did his job, he took care of what he needed to take care of to take care of me. And he even bought me a meal, all these things, like, thank you. Who I'm a little rougher on is my general manager, who it's like, I've been telling you this shit for months, like, stay on top of your team. I don't tattle on people, but I say, your team's not behaving right. Your team's not performing well. Look into what that can be. Look in, and I know he knows, and there's just no change. And so the next day he walks in and he's like, hey, how was last night? How'd that go? And I'm like, this is the manager that told me to come in late, knowing that he had talked to her and knowing what kind of a place she was in and saw the bar before he left, because he saw me before he left and didn't give me a heads up because we were passing ships as I came in. And I was like, you know how last night went. It was awful. And I just, again, in the same way that I went off on Boy Wonder, I went off on him, but he's the general manager, so I have to do it in more of a professional way. And I told him, I said, on a regular day, I don't make enough money for being here. The amount of work that you make us bartenders do for a 1% tip out, for us doing all this work, and then you just transfer tabs to tables once they leave the bar and go to a table. So then we lose 100% of that tip and get 1% back. And you have all 2 garnishes per drink that have to be prepped, all these blends that have to be prepped, all these signature cocktails that people then end up ordering dirty Tito's or just a regular margarita, and everything I need to do that is like 4 feet away from where I actually need, and there's all these obstacles to get to the ingredients. I don't make enough for the work I'm doing. And then when I have to babysit your staff because you don't stay on top of them, you don't set what the intentions are, what the expectations are, like, I don't make enough money being here. And I need to change that. So I'm going to start prioritizing income outside of here. And I need you to know that if I can't come to work because something better comes along, that's my number one. And he was just like, you're right. I'm sorry. And it's like, yeah, it's always sorry, baby. It's always sorry. But I don't ask me what my thoughts are when I've been telling you my thoughts for months. Okay. And he's just like, so, what can we do about it? And I was like, well, I'm shaving off a shift. I'm going from 4 to 3 because I have other stuff I need to do and prioritize. I got my bookkeeping clients that's building, and I'm going to start picking up more catering work because it may not be as much money in catering, but it's consistent, it's reliable, and the shit shows at least have a promised end time. And there's a formula to it. So did that and just was very honest with everything. And I was talking to him about Brian. And I was like, I love nothing more than calling him out for being inadequate. And he's part of the problem of why I feel stressed of having to hold hands and babysit and hold the walls up for other people and not make enough money. But like, when I'm defending him because of the Monday night crew, who will refer to them as that, because they're dropping the ball consistently, whether it's on Monday night or whatever nights they're working, and that there's the core team, me, Tyler, Danny, Brandy, and we're holding the walls up and you still can't take care of us. We got screwed over on New Year's. We got screwed over here. We get screwed over every day, and there's nothing you can do. And there's nothing you're willing to do. Because again, I get it. You got the head chefs, you got the directors of operation who love to send those PDFs and those emails, and we're taking more tests and more drinks that are overly thought out and overly complicated, and at the end of the day, not making us enough money. So yeah, that's what I need. And he took it well. Well, not well. He took it, and he was like, tell me what you need, and you got it. You're so talented. You can have success in any bar. And I'm like, I can have success anywhere. I don't want to be doing this, but thank you. And I was I thank you. He's like, and my hope is that you will stay with us, but I understand if you have to leave us. And I said, okay, because I'm not going to say something that I don't believe. And the day's coming soon. And it's here. And I was planning on having this conversation with him regardless, but these events kind of sped it up. And then I had 2 shifts, well, 1 shift last night with part of my A team, with me, Danny, and Brandy. And then tonight it's going to be me and Danny. So I know I'm fine, but it's still just like, I'm glad we got busy. And like for January, this bar is now swimming in people at the bar and wonderful, but we're working so hard. We don't have enough glassware. We don't have enough this and that. And at the end of the night, for all the work we did, and we still didn't make enough money. We still did not make enough money. And yeah, it's been a week and a half long tough shift. And I had entire other notes of what I wanted to talk about gratitude and what I'm looking forward in this year and all this. And I just apparently needed to get that off my chest. And I thank you guys for listening and for whatever it's serving you. Like if you're dealing with people with addiction, baby, reach out. Let's talk. Let's support each other. If you're suffering with addiction, like please find the resources you need. If you're in a dead end job and you want encouragement, slip into my DMs. Slip into my DMs and say, hey, I just need someone to know that this is what I got going on in my life, that this is what I want to change, and I will cheer you the fuck on. I will cheer you on to the mountaintops. And when you get to that goal that you set for yourself, I will be the first one screaming and stomping my feet and screaming your praises. All right? So maybe this wasn't the most uplifting Tough Shift episode, but I needed it. If it had any impact on your life and you needed it, we're in this together. All right? So this is what we're doing in 2026. We're not dealing with this bullshit. We're not going to let it go another month. We're not going to let it go another year. Whatever bullshit we have going on in our life, we're going to solve it. We're going to get like, nope, sorry. If you're not willing to change, I got it. You got to be willing to work without me. You got to be willing to live without me if you're not willing to put in the work that I'm putting in. All right? Happy New Year. Happy Tough Shift. And again, for the people who make my tough shifts easier, Tyler, Danny, Brandy, and the servers as well, specifically on Jules, everybody, I fucking love you. And I'm sorry that we work at such an awful place. And I hope that we can maintain a friendship outside of it. And I hope only the best for us, not just this year, but for every year that we have to come. Please take care of yourself. And just remember, tough shifts build character. And character is what brings your story to life.
Tough Shift was created and hosted by Patrick Murtagh. It was recorded on Riverside and distributed with Buzzsprout. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and maybe a comment or 2. And remember, tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life.